All right, welcome everyone. As a scholar, I've experienced firsthand the transformative power of education. It's not just about acquiring knowledge, it's about changing lives and opening doors to opportunities that seemed out of reach. Today, joined by Ben Dawson, we'll dive into how access to quality education can be the cornerstone in overcoming poverty. We'll reflect on the barriers that exist, but also celebrate the resilience of those who overcome them and the strategies that make it possible. This is a conversation close to my heart, and I'm eager for us to explore together how we can make education a reality for everyone, regardless of their starting point in life. Please join me in welcoming to the stage Vice President for Cisco Australia and New Zealand, Ben Dawson. So Ben, let's start with big picture. Millions around the globe remain deprived of access to quality education, and we had this discussion yesterday. Perpetuating cycles of disadvantage and inequality is a challenge that we need to overcome. Can you start with why education is so important to millions around the world?
Thanks, Jesse. I'd love to talk to that. Just before I do, I just wanted to say thank you to you for speaking so powerfully earlier about the need for the continued passion around reconciliation and the continued drive there. And I'd like to add my acknowledgement today to the traditional custodians of the land we meet on, the Wurundjeri people, and welcome all of you. For those from out of town, welcome all of you to my hometown of Naarm. Important work to be done. But
thank you.
And also shout out to the youth leaders. I've had the opportunity to meet a number of you through the course of this week, and inspiring and humbling to see what you do and how you do it. The passion and commitment you bring to your focus areas is quite amazing. So keep up the good work. But on the topic of education, I don't think there'd be too much debate in this room about the great levelling effect, the great equality, equity that's been driven globally over generations from access to education. At Cisco, we're passionate around education. We're also passionate about access. Difficult to get access to education if you don't first have access. Yeah. And we believe the other great leveller for society and for economies is access to the internet. And we've seen some of the evolution, some of the impact that access has had across industries, across societies, across education, but we're not doing enough. And in terms of why that's important, PwC issued a study recently that said if we could have global participation in the internet, we had the ability to elevate 7% of the world's population out of extreme poverty, or 500 million people.
So what are some of the barriers that prevent people from accessing education? We know what the strength base is, we know what we can achieve together, but what are the things that are holding us back?
Number of factors, and I think it varies wildly by country, it varies by economy, but maybe just a brief history lesson.
Yes.
I imagine many in the room weren't alive when the internet was invented. But just a reminder, and I think to give us a centre point to come back to in terms of what's possible is the internet is the greatest open source project of all time. It was created by academics and it was made freely available to the world. And that should by definition bring with it equity. It's since been obviously monetised. We pay to access it, we pay for services that reside on it. But at its core, the principle is that it is free and equitable access, and we can use it in any way possible. So, incredible enabler. What we see in, Cisco recently conducted a study, we do it every 2 years, called the Digital Readiness Index. And this looks at the readiness of economies and groups within countries to actively participate and take advantage of the full breadth of the opportunity in the digital economy, and education being a key part of that. Some of the things we saw were probably quite obvious, that if you don't have broadband internet, if you don't have devices with which to participate, that's a problem. But What we actually saw as the bigger inhibitors were some of the underlying social issues. If you don't have access to reliable power, if you don't have access to healthcare, if you don't have access to reliable water sources, then your not only ability but your interest in getting engaged wanes. So I think it's addressing those underlying equality issues. Much of what's been talked about this week is really important, and it give people in underserved communities the ability to access whatever the rest of us get access to.
Now, the Cisco Networking Academy is something that you're quite proud of, and I've had the opportunity to hear a little bit about that. But for people who might not have heard about it yet, it operates globally. It offers a broad range of courses to the IT world, with many graduates going on to start their own business, work in major tech firms, or contribute to their community's digital transformation. And we do have a short video that we'd like to play now so people can be aware. Wow. 20 million students over 25 years, that's quite astronomical. I think that deserves a round of applause. Why has this program been so successful, and why have its students and its alumni been so successful?
Yeah, it's you mentioned it's something we are intensely proud of at Cisco. I've been at Cisco for 26 years, and Networking Academy started right around the time I did. And you're proud to be part of an organisation that recognised a need ahead of perhaps others identifying that need, and we invested in addressing what we at the time identified as skills gap in technology and networking, and we've sustained that investment over that period. And the program's evolved too, so it's not just about core technology skills. We've added things like entrepreneurism, cybersecurity. Actually, I think there's some Network Academy students in the audience today. I know one of them is studying cybersecurity. There she is. Welcome. Oh, there's Nor. Yeah. Yeah. So we've continued to invest in the program. Now, just a bit about how it works is Cisco provides free of charge curriculum and content, and we partner. So we bring passion and content, and we drive scale through partnership. So we partner with secondary institutions, universities in Australia, the TAFE sector or vocational colleges elsewhere in the world, and we help them deliver that course content. What we see is, in terms of some of the results, is you mentioned the 25 million. In Australia, it's over 250,000 students have been through that, and 94% of those that come through it report better career opportunities or career departures. So we're seeing early in career students come through and start their careers in areas of technology, or just get the foundational skills to engage in the digital economy. Yeah, I think developing skills has traditionally been about building technology professionals, but what we see increasingly is all roles in the economy are going to require some level of digital literacy. So I think there's a broader capability we're building as well.
Fantastic. So, I mean, from my perspective today, we've heard from some very powerful women. We've heard from people from different cultures. We've heard from some First Nations people, not just me, other people. And we realise that these challenges can be worked through together. There's something we can all do as people. What do you think we can do through this kind of educational program, and what can we do together to end poverty through education? Big question, but maybe some smaller ground level things. I always like to think about this from a community perspective. What can we all do in our own sphere of influence?
I think it's really interesting. I go back to where the internet began. It was started for a very specific purpose around basically academics exchanging information to support research. You could not have imagined at the time the way the internet's evolved and the way technology's evolved and the ways that we utilise it today. I think at a community level there's a real opportunity. What we've learned is if you can give people a little bit of access and a little bit of education, smart people will do amazing things with the tools that they're given. And so I think some of that grassroots. We had a great example of a student actually out of rural New South Wales, about 600 kilometres, 400 miles west of Sydney. Tully, she went through a networking academy, got some foundational skills, was able to go back into her community as a First Nations woman and help technically enable that community, impart skills with the rest of the community, and also build a troubleshooting sort of problem-solving mindset with the community. So we see lots of those sort of point examples of local impact from global scale. I think one of the things that this room can do to help big technology companies like Cisco and the social media players and so on is we have resources, we have passion, we have capability, we have funding. What we often lack is visibility of the true situation, the true opportunities on the ground in communities. And so bringing those community insights, bringing opportunities to engage with community-led initiatives, community-led engagements, I think is an important intersection between technology and local community.
And of course, those of us, many of us are aware that education is a human right. And what you're doing is empowering people to exercise that right. So I think on behalf of everyone here, I'd like to say thank you. Everyone here is a global citizen and yourself as a global citizen. This is the right kind of work. So thank you. We've got a short amount of time. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of how we approach the challenges for First Nations Australians through being interconnected through internet, through tech hubs and training in regions?
Yeah, thank you. And back to I mentioned before the digital readiness work that we do. One of the things that, not surprisingly, but nonetheless disappointingly came through that is, if you look in the context of Australia, disproportionately, our First Nations people are being left behind in terms of they're not given the same ability to engage in the digital economy in the same way. And it's quite entrenched. We actually saw the gap widen in the last report between cities and cities within Australia that have great economic advantage from the digital economy, from access to education, from building those digital skills, and the Indigenous community. What we're looking at, we've actually, a similar story in the South Pacific actually. And we just announced a partnership with the University of South Pacific, Fiji Telecom, to create this notion of digital hubs, where we're actually creating a centre, a location, where people can come in and get access to the tools and some of the education they may not be able to get from their village in the case of the Fijian Islands. That centre alone will serve up to 30,000 people from the surrounding islands, and we're looking at opportunities to do much more of that, just to create that. Again, it's creating that sort of seed capital, if you like.
Yeah.
Seed capital in terms of a little bit of education, a little bit of access, we think can drive meaningful results.
Brilliant. Ben Dawson of Cisco, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.